This video is an English translated Dhamma program of Sri Sadham Mastermaya conducted by Most Venerable Sri Samantha Bhadra Thero. Please follow the link below and check the original Sinhala content. My intention is here to spread the practically possible message of universal truth to the international audience. Thank you. Today we gathered to hear a Dhamma message intended to awaken our hearts. What hinders an individual from attaining Nibbana? It is the mind influenced by ingrained patterns of craving and ignorance. These mental defilements, rooted in the past experiences and conditioning, dictate our perception of good and bad, leading us to the actions that perpetuate the cycle of samsara, the continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The mind, shaped by accumulated information and experiences, often resists the cessation of existence, thereby propelling us along the path of rebirth. This habitual thinking traps individual in the cycle of samsara. However, by transforming our way of thinking, specifically by uprooting craving and ignorance, we can move towards the realization of Nibbana. In essence, it is the untrained mind that obstructs our spiritual liberation. Our mind generates numerous thoughts which we often act upon. We are influenced by the judgment such as this is good or this is bad, all based on prior experiences. Our behavior, lifestyle, or even our approach to death are shaped by the past conditioning. It is akin to placing ourselves in a self-made cage, locking ourselves in, discarding the key, and then seeking a way to escape. To attain liberation, we must recognize and transcend these mental patterns, allowing us to break free from the confines of our own making. In today's society, individuals often perceive experiences negatively, leading to a diminished quality of life. In Sri Lanka, for instance, the suicide rate is approximately 20 to 30 individuals per day. However, ending one's life is not a solution for life's challenges. It is essential to seek solutions through life itself, employing wisdom to address arising issues. The inclination towards the suicide stems from the mind's negative thought patterns, not the heart. People become ensnared in these mental processes, believing them to be the essence of life, thus falling prey to their own perceptions. This self-deception is prevalent as individuals often misinterpret data received from their surroundings. Consider a scenario where someone encounters an individual wearing a frightening mask on a quiet evening walk. The immediate reaction is fear based on the perceived threat. However, upon removing the mask, the person may recognize a familiar face. This illustrates how easily one can be deceived by the initial impression. Reflecting on the personal experiences, one might identify the most significant challenges as those arise from the self-deception influenced by misinterpreted information. Decisions are sometimes made based on the incorrect assumptions, leading to self-sabotage. The mind plays a crucial role in these processes. Nonetheless, nature provides an opportunity for everyone to reawaken their consciousness. Although this path may not be immediately apparent, there exists a methodology designed for this purpose, guiding individuals towards the clarity and understanding. The heart, in its pure and untainted state, embodies innocence and is inclined towards virtuous deeds, guiding individuals towards Nibbana. However, people often disregard the heart's intuitive guidance, favoring the mind's data-driven decisions instead. The mind bases its judgment on the past experiences, leading individuals to believe that replicating previous action will yield the similar outcomes. This reliance on the mind's analytical processes can entrap a person in repetitive patterns. In contrast, the heart operates independently of the past data, generating thoughts that are free from prior conditioning as it remains pure and unpolluted. It is important to recognize that decisions rooted solely in the logical analysis and the past experiences can lead to personal distress and setbacks. For instance, assuming that mimicking another's action will produce the same results overlooks individuals' differences in circumstances. Such assumptions are products of the mind's activity. The heart, devoid of a reference frame, offers a spiritual path essential for human growth. Understanding the distinct functions of a heart and the mind presents the challenges of aligning one's actions with the heart's rhythm, aiming for liberation from the samsara, the continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Nibbana represents the cessation of the cycle, signifying freedom from the perpetual rounds of birth and death. It is crucial to clarify that Nibbana does not imply the prevention of the birth itself, a common misconception. Traditional Buddhist philosophy does not support the notion that Nibbana equates to the avoidance of the birth. Instead, it denotes the extinguishment of the mental defilements that fuel the cycle of rebirth, leading to ultimate liberation. The Prince Siddhartha Gautama, later known as the Buddha, encounters four pivotal sites during his early life: an elderly person, a sick individual, a diseased body, and an ascetic in meditation. These observations profoundly impacted him, leading to his renunciation of worldly life in pursuit of understanding and alleviating human suffering. These experiences prompt the Bodhisattva to seek answers to fundamental questions. How can one prevent birth, illness, aging, and death? His quest was not for physical remedies, but for mental liberation from the suffering associated with these inevitable aspects of life. Despite attaining enlightenment, the Buddha himself experienced aging, sickness, and death, illustrating that while physical phenomena is unavoidable, one's mental response to them can be transformed. Suffering arises from the mind's resistance to the natural processes like aging and death. By cultivating mental preparedness and acceptance, individual can alleviate the distress typically associated with these experiences. The Buddha's teaching emphasized addressing mental affections, recognizing that while physical pain is an inherent part of the life, suffering is a product of the mind's reaction to that pain. Nibbana represents a state of profound understanding and liberation from the mental defilements that cause suffering. This wisdom is not acquired through conventional education, but through introspection and mental cultivation. Achieving Nibbana involves developing a mindset that remains unaffected by physical ailments, aging, or death, thereby attaining mental freedom from suffering. The Buddha's own life exemplifies this principle. Although he experienced physical decline and death, he did not suffer mentally from these conditions. Individuals are encouraged to reflect on their mental response to sickness and aging. Noting whether discomfort arises from these experiences can indicate areas where acceptance is lacking. By acknowledging and addressing these mental resistances, one can work toward a state of equanimity, viewing life's inevitable events as natural occurrences rather than sources of suffering. Aging, illness, and death are inevitable aspects of human existence that we cannot evade regardless of our efforts. These natural processes will impact us all, compelling us to confront them directly. In our daily lives, we often attempt to avoid unpleasant experiences or individuals we find bothersome, viewing them as nuisances. Similarly, we strive to escape the realities of aging, sickness, and death. However, just as some individuals persistently reappear despite our avoidance, these aspects of life are unavoidable and will confront us eventually. Attempting to sidestep these experiences only delays the inevitable, often making it more challenging when they do occur. Facing these realities necessitates a spiritual approach. This need has given rise to various philosophers, teachers, and religious figures, including Buddha, who sought to provide answers to these profound questions. Throughout history, humans have grappled with understanding how to confront aging, illness, and death. Those who discover meaningful answers can transcend these concerns not by altering the physical realities, but by transforming their psychological responses. By accepting and understanding the nature of these inevitable experiences, individuals can attain a state of peace and equanimity, reducing mental suffering associated with life's unavoidable challenges. Aging is an inevitable process that manifests physically regardless of our efforts to conceal its effects. Similarly, illnesses intrude upon our bodies without invitation, and death is an unavoidable reality. As sentient beings, we often strive to cling to the cycle of existence, or as samsara, attempting to avoid the discomfort of aging, sickness, and death. This avoidance is akin to steer clear of individuals who cause and distress those whose presence feel burdensome and unproductive. In the same vein, every person endeavors to evade the realities of aging, illness, and mortality. When we avoid some individuals, some may recognize our intent and allow us space, while others may persistently seek our company, reappearing unexpectedly. Life operates similarly. We cannot sidestep its inherent experiences. Both joyous and sorrowful moments are inescapable. Attempt to avoid these experiences often results in their reoccurrence, sometimes more intensely than before, leading us to realize that facing them earlier might have more manageable. How then we should confront these realities? This is where the spiritual path offers guidance. The emergence of various philosophers, teachers, visionaries, and religious figures including Buddha was to provide answers to life's fundamental challenges. As you participate in this discourse, seeking shade from the sun, you too are in pursuit of these answers. This quest is timeless, spanning thousands of years. Those who discover these answers transcend the associated dilemmas not by altering their physical circumstances, but transforming their psychological responses. Such individuals still experience aging, sickness, and physical decline, yet they no longer perceive these occurrences as problems. For them, these are mere events, devoid of the burdensome significance they once held. In traditional Dhamma teachings, aging, illness, and death are presented as natural facets of life. However, without a deep understanding of Buddhist philosophy or spiritual growth, one might view aging as a profound personal crisis. Consider Makadeva Jataka, where King Makadeva, upon discovering his first grey hair after thousands of years, chose to renounce his throne in pursuit of spiritual truth. This narrative illustrates that aging is an unavoidable aspect of life. Attempting to evade it is futile. Acceptance allows us to coexist with it without undue mental burden. In essence, problems arise only when we perceive them as such. By reframing our mindset, we can navigate life's inevitable events, aging, sickness, and death without unnecessary sufferings. In life, we often encounter individuals whose behaviors challenge our patience and understanding. Consider a hostile roommate who incessantly chatters, seemingly wasting time. Constantly complaining about this person demanding either your relocation or theirs, indicate that issue has become a mental burden for you. A similar situation is illustrated by the story of a habitual drunkard who returned home intoxicated every night. Despite his family's persistent effort to reform him, he remained steadfast in his ways. Each evening, his family was prepared to scold him upon his return, and he in turn was ready to endure their reprimands. This cycle became a daily routine. One day, his wife decided to break this pattern. Instead of greeting him with anger, she welcomed him warmly, offering dinner or a cup of tea. This unexpected kindness left the man bewildered, and his inebriation seemed to dissipate instantly. This narrative demonstrates that nature often operates on predictable patterns. We anticipate certain reactions to specific behaviors. Misconduct typically leads to social rejection. In the case of the drunkard, his wife's unconventional response disrupted the expected sequence, prompting a change. Similarly, with the talkative roommate, responding positively, perhaps by engaging in conversation or sharing a cup of tea, might lead them to reconsider their behavior, possibly choosing to rest instead. By deviating from traditional reactions, we can find effective solutions to persistent problems. Traditional responses often perpetuate issues, much like the continuous cycle of samsara, or else the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. In contrast, non-traditional thoughtful approaches can resolve problems permanently. The teachings you are currently exploring advocate for such non-traditional paths to Nibbana or else the enlightenment. While traditional methods are widely practiced and documented, embracing innovative approaches may lead to profound spiritual liberation. In the traditional approach Nibbana, practitioners often take their guidance directly from the books, strictly adhering to these teachings and passing them to others. While this may seem productive, the reality is that this method leads to no meaningful outcome. Recently, I encountered a monk who exemplified this issue. He has spent over 40 years in monkhood and dedicated half of that time, that means 20 years, to learning meditation, and another 20 years teaching it to others. When I asked him why he had come to meet me, he confessed, "I felt there is no meaning in it." This admission struck me profoundly because it reflects the emptiness of the traditional approach. The outcome of 40 years of effort was merely the act of learning and teaching. It had not provided him answers to the life's most profound questions: birth, aging, illness, and death. Instead of seeking solutions to these fundamental issues, he had focused on perpetuating a cycle of education and instruction without true understanding or liberation. This illustrates the futility of the traditional path to Nibbana. The process takes an immense amount of time to learn, even longer to teach, and ultimately leads to no real resolution. The monk's experience underscores that this method is circular. It revolves around learning and teaching but never transcends them. The traditional method does not yield insight or solutions to life's essential questions. It simply perpetuates knowledge transfer. During the Lord Buddha's era, the Brahmanas played a central role in the society, particularly as the custodians of the Vedas. Their duties were threefold: learning, teaching, and advising rulers. Lord Buddha openly criticized these practices, pointing out their superficiality and the inability to address the true purpose of life. He referred to this in Pali as Ajjayata Kule Jata Brahmana Matta Bandhuna. This phrase critiques the Brahmans for memorizing and mastering scriptures merely to pass them to others, emphasizing that such effort do not lead to Nibbana. Lord Buddha made it clear that Nibbana is not achieved through learning and teaching. Instead, he advocated for practicing as only genuine path to liberation. His approach was revolutionary and non-traditional, emphasizing direct experience over rote memorization or instruction. In the time of the Lord Buddha, all who attained the state of arahatship, those who reached Nibbana, did so through the non-traditional path. None achieved it by adhering to the traditional methods. The attainment of arahatship is possible only through practice that defies convention. Thus, the task at hand is to adapt oneself to these non-traditional practices. In this approach, no one teaches another, nor does anyone merely learn from another. Instead, the focus is entirely on practicing. To follow the traditional path is to disregard the Buddha's ultimate guidance. In Chinese Zen Buddhism, practitioners famously burn theoretical texts, rejecting the notion that wisdom could arise from the books. Their belief is that wisdom is awakened not by rote memorization or theoretical knowledge, but by what one gleans from the life's surroundings, by observing and understanding the worlds in which one lives. Wisdom arises from the personal encounters, the people we meet, the animal we interact with, the laughter, the sorrow, and the myriad experiences that shape us. This wisdom does not come from the learning or teaching in the traditional sense. It is cultivated through living experiences. When you come to a place like this, what you gain is not traditional knowledge, but non-traditional experiences. These experiences do not extend the cycle of samsara. Rather, they illuminate the path to Nibbana. Anyone who pursues Nibbana does so through non-traditional experiences shared by life itself. Consider widespread belief in Maitreya, the next Buddha, as an example of non-traditional approach to Buddhism. Texts like Pujavaliya describe Maitreya in meticulous detail, even providing his physical dimensions, stating that he is 131 feet tall with a nose length of 10.5 feet. Statues are constructed based on these descriptions. But these depictions reflects the traditional mindset, one grounded in ritual and formality. Now compare this story to Asanga, who pursued Buddha in an entirely different way. After meditating for 20 years using traditional methods, without a success, Asanga abandoned them and began engaging with the world. One day, he encountered a man polishing a massive iron rod, intending to shape it into a needle. When Asanga asked how long it would take, the man calmly replied, "I am not in a hurry." This interaction revealed profound truth to Asanga. The absence of hurry is the first step to seeing the real Buddha. Asanga continued to explore non-traditional paths. Eventually, he came across a dog with a festering wound filled with worms. Instead of turning away, he compassionately tended to the dog, removing the worms. In this moment of pure, selfless action, Asanga saw the real Buddha. This was a Buddha not confined to form or tradition, but revealed through unconventional acts of compassion and understanding. The real Buddha can be perceived through conventional rituals. Imagine a tray of flowers offered to a Buddha statue. Most people would readily place it on their heads as a gesture of reverence. But if the tray contained cow dung instead, no one would do the same. This reaction highlights the limitation of the societal conditioning. The person who places the flower tray on their head sees only the fake Buddha, a representation of crafted from a clay and cement. In contrast, the one who humbly accepts the tray of cow dung begins to understand the real Buddha, a concept beyond the material offering and societal norms. Society perpetuates the idea that Buddha can be seen through ritualistic acts, but this is a misconception. Those who truly perceive the Buddha are those who think unconventionally, who step outside the boundaries of tradition. History's greatest innovators, scientists, philosophers, and sages have always been unconventional thinkers. These mavericks challenged norms and discovered profound truths. How can we be certain they have seen the real Buddha? The answer lies in transformation. For those who perceive the real Buddha, death is no longer a matter of fear. Illness ceases to be a source of pain. Aging no longer raises questions of worry. Even in situations of conflicts or difficulty, such as sharing a room with someone troublesome, a person who has seen the real Buddha remains untroubled. They are unaffected by the external circumstances because their wisdom transcends traditional concerns. Throughout history, there are individuals who have perceived the real Buddha. Without exception, they have done so by following unconventional paths. It is through breaking free from social norms, rejecting rigid traditions, and embracing the non-traditional that one discovers the truth of the Buddha and path to Nibbana. To perceive Buddha in an unconventional way, the first step is to free yourself from being a prisoner to your own mind and knowledge. This means setting aside preconceived notions and allowing your thoughts to flow freely from your heart, rather than being constrained by intellect alone. When the heart opens, a transformation occurs. The sense of self fades away. The identity of me and mine dissolves, and everything becomes shared and selfless. Ask yourself, is there anything you truly own? When your heart opens, the answer will be no. Living selflessly where nothing is claimed as mine is the path to seeing the real Buddha. The Buddha is not a towering figure of 131 feet, nor does it have a specific form. The real Buddha is ever present, radiant day and night, and embodies an awakened mind unbound by accumulated knowledge. Awakening the mind doesn't require sitting in the meditation for hours. Instead, it involves engaging with life, cleaning sewage, helping others, and performing tasks without hesitation or resistance, even those others may refuse. These acts of selflessness and openness lead to the real Buddha. It may seem absurd to some that cleaning sewage could lead Nibbana, but history and practice reveal that those who willingly perform such humble tasks often attain enlightenment. During the Buddha's time, he engaged in profound Dharma discussions with people from all walks of life. The Digha Nikaya contains accounts of lengthy debates and dialogues, often with Brahmanas, that span hours. Yet many of these intellectuals, despite their long discussions, failed to see the real Buddha. Conversely, the Sutta Nipata recounts how simple, uneducated individuals, even criminals, met the Buddha briefly, opened their hearts, and found Nibbana. This contrast emphasizes that Nibbana is not found through the endless debates or intellectual pursuits. Instead, it is accessible to those who approach life with humanity, open hearts, and a willingness to change. The Buddha himself advised the Sangha that the noble truth and the Nibbana resides within this very body, within 6 feet of human existence. It is not something distant or external, but deeply personal and present. However, the Buddha did not outright reject traditional beliefs. He understood the importance of reaching a wide audience and used conventional symbols like statues and rituals to draw people in. Once they were receptive, he guided them to look within themselves, teaching the harder truth that the Buddha and the path to Nibbana are found within, not in grand monuments or external displays. Revolutions in society, economics, and politics are often quick to achieve. But the philosophical revolution requires to awaken people to the truth of Nibbana is slow and demanding. It requires teachers of exceptional wisdom as may fail to grasp its essence. When people are asked to seek the Buddha, their immediate response is to create statues, tangible representations that conforms to traditional beliefs. While such acts have their place, the true challenge lies in helping people shift their perspective inwards to see the Buddha within themselves, within the 6-foot expanse of their own being. The traditional path to Nibbana yields only two outcomes: learning and teaching. It is the non-traditional path where wisdom arises from the lived experiences and selflessness that one gains the profound understanding need to transcend suffering. Only by walking this unconventional path can one discover the wisdom and truth that lead to Nibbana. The question arises, why must we follow a non-traditional path to Nibbana? Consider this. If someone is asked to clean sewage as a step towards enlightenment, why would they agree to such an unconventional task? The answer lies in their faith and the trust in their path. The faith transcends book learning of meditation practices. Only those with unwavering beliefs in non-traditional path can truly walk it and see the results. What then is the most profound occurrence in a person's life? It is the chance to encounter someone they can trust, a teacher or guide. Once you meet such a person, you must be willing to accept their instructions and, most importantly, act upon them. These three factors, meeting the guide, receiving their instructions, and following it without hesitation, lead to liberation from the cycle of samsara. Let me simplify. Meet a teacher, heed their wisdom, and act upon it. These are three keys to freedom. In this context, the teacher serves as a catalyst, offering instructions that, when followed, open the path to Nibbana. This is why philosophical revolutions such as one we discuss are so challenging. Unlike social, political, or economical revolutions, a philosophical revolution relies on these three inmates and personal elements. It demands deep trust, unflinching acceptance, and self-driven action. This is why the Buddha called for a community, a sangha comprised of monks, or we can say bhikkhus, nuns, bhikkhunis, and lay followers, upasaka and upasikas. These groups exist not to merely preserve rituals, but to embrace and follow the Buddha's path toward enlightenment. Traditional acts like creating statues, organizing puja, offering dana, or chanting pirit are good deeds, but they are only starting points. Beyond them lies a real journey showing the path to Nibbana. Yet over time, even this non-traditional approach may be reduced to ritual. As decades and centuries pass, people may call that a teacher once advocated an unconventional path, but they will discuss it as a concept rather than living it as a practice. Words will be passed from ear to ear, like a game of whispers, losing their essence along the way. What we now teach as a vibrant truth may eventually become a mere set of teachings, misunderstood and diluted. The true test of the path is whether it resonates within you. It is irrelevant whether others believe in it. If the path is trustworthy to you, then that trust is sufficient. Faith in Buddha or the path does not rely on external validation but the personal conviction. This message may seem unconventional, even strange because it challenges the traditional framework of thought, but that is precisely why it awakens the mind like a flower blooming in sunlight. This is real essence of the Buddha's teaching, his ultimate message of liberation. Following this path is how we can escape samsara. I am confident that this is the truth, not because it is accepted by the specific group, but because it aligns with universal principles. When a true philosophy takes root in the universe, it transforms everything: art, music, literature, innovation, and even the way we live and interact. Such a philosophy renews society, creating a world in harmony with its principles. And while this process has begun, it requires collective effort. For years, this journey has been undertaken alone, but now it calls for everyone to join. Consider the story of the divine bow Saranga, which could only be wielded by the god Mahavishnu. In the same way, certain philosophies and revolutions, be they ideological, social, or spiritual, await the right people to bring them to the life. Without such individuals, these ideas remain dormant, mere showroom items. The world requires transformative individuals who will lead revolutions in thought, society, and spiritually. Without them, we risk being forgotten, leaving no meaningful legacy behind. When asked, where are philosophies you created? Where are the lives you transformed? Where are the peoples you guided to Nibbana? There must be answers. The answers lies in a simple, profound truth. Follow the non-traditional path to Nibbana. This path resolves all challenges and illuminates the way forward. Anyone can attempt it, and the only prerequisite is trust. I hope that all of you will find the wisdom and faith necessary to cultivate this trust. It is the foundation for transformation, not just for yourself, but for the world around you.